Hello. Okay, hello everybody. Lane will lead the meeting today. Go ahead.
All righty out there in TV land. Today we have a very special meeting. I'm eating jelly beans and I really should swallow them first. Okay, wait a minute. Okay. We've been talking about women's problems and the importance of getting out there to fight. And sometimes we don't really go into the gist of it. How did you get the problem? We have rape, we have all kinds of problems, but I'm giving this a few I'm giving this a few minutes. Hello there out in California land. Or she has that look again.
Hi, Lynn.
I don't know. We're going to give it a few minutes till everybody comes.
That's okay. I love your pillows. They're cats.
Tell her how much you paid for them.
$1 for each. It's
Oh
Chinese.
my God, they're so cute.
Four
They're so
pillows.
cute.
4 pillows for
Pillows.
$4.
I have to go get something real quick. I've got to show you.
Go.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Our house is little.
Yeah. Go ahead, baby. Yeah.
You swallow my jelly beans?
I want you to meet Mookie.
Mookie.
One of my. This can you see?
No.
Oh, okay.
Block my screen.
Oh.
This is
Oh.
Mookie, one of the 4 babies that was born 6 weeks ago.
Wow.
He is the
Oh.
sweetest little thing. Look at his little tummy with the leopard print on it. Can you see that?
Wow.
Mookie. Hi, Mookie. These are my good friends in New York. Lynn
No,
is
thank
always
you.
on me. And
I have
Toby.
enough trouble taking care of Tofik.
Don't trust her.
Well, we have made the decision to keep them and the mother.
Great.
We
That's
really
the best.
you know, when we watch them, the way they
Never down my
bond,
line. That's what Shirley wanted, and that's what she was going to get.
yeah, you can't. We thought we would give them all away, but
Yeah.
7 weeks into this, we're like, how can we do that? It's like Solomon, you know, in the Old
As
Testament.
long as you have room.
Oh, we have room.
Barbara is here.
Good.
He's just such a sweet little boy. This is his first national appearance. I gotta put it back now.
I love cats.
Here
I
we go.
love cats.
Hi,
Hi, Barbara.
Woohoo!
Yay, my sister is there.
Hi, sweetheart. Tell her to
Love
say
you.
to her mic.
Yeah, Leah is there.
Okay.
Hi, Sophie.
Hi,
Okay,
Barbara,
good.
we love
One
you.
player's here.
You look so sparkling. Thanks God. You're so
She has Barbara.
sparkling.
Barbara has a new Jew.
Yeah.
Oh, where's Barbara?
There she is.
I can't see her.
Well,
Okay.
And where is Leia?
Leah is here. Here is
I
she.
see.
Hi,
Oh, I
Leah.
see Barbara, but all I see is Barbara's eyeglasses.
Okay.
Yes, you know, the connection. It's
Okay.
just
Yeah,
starting.
it's all your fault.
Yeah.
The only person that we have to see is Miss
Yeah.
Shirley. Okay, today's session.
Wait till most
This is
attend,
it. This will
okay?
probably
No,
be it.
not yet. I love you.
I have to tell you, one of my most
Okay,
favorite
I-
cartoons.
I'll let
One of
you
my
ladies-
most-
I
One
give
of my
you
most
advice.
favorite cartoons was when I was first starting my business and I was over in Tucson waiting for an appointment. And I came across a card by who became my favorite cartoonist. He's now dead, John.
I can't hear her.
At-
Tofik, I can't hear
It's a
anything.
connection.
Times, you got to hear this. I am personally responsible for the agony of Christ. I am personally responsible.
And today, this morning, they're discussing
Yeah.
the abuse that the priest did on all
Yeah.
these kids.
Oh my gosh.
The priest.
It's weird.
And now they're talking about paying what the priest did, the molesting and all that other crap.
Oh,
now they're going to have to pay the piper.
I have a friend who was abused by a priest at 13, and she got a big, huge, almost $1 million out here from the archdiocese.
Leah, can I see your face? Leah.
Leah, where are you?
Leah's I'm ready to start until as soon as
There's nobody here. Nobody cares. Nobody
we
wants
have
to listen.
Barbara, we have Leah. I think we
Yeah.
I don't see. Okay, here she comes.
Okay, so
Hello there, Leah. Baruch Hashem, as they say in Jewish.
yeah.
Very good.
Barbara is
Okay,
back.
Barbara's back. Okay, we're good. Okay, let's start fast because I want to keep the momentum going.
There's
I don't know
Barbara.
what happened.
Hi, Barbara.
Okay.
Hi.
Leah.
Hi,
Toby.
Barbara.
Okay.
I don't know what
Barbara.
happened.
Love for
Hi,
Barbara.
Leah.
Everybody
Hi,
loves-
Leah.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay. Today's meeting is a very Leah. You and I, when this meeting is over, have to have a serious talk about the book. I love the book.
Oh, okay.
I asked Leah
Okay.
to do me a favor and write a few pages for a book I was thinking about. I wasn't even sure I was going to put the book into print. She sent me 105 pages. 105 pages.
Well,
She
thank you,
gathered them
Leah,
up all
because
night
I
editing
never
them.
send her anything.
Thank you, Shirley. The reason I'm gray, Shirley, is because of you and her. That's it.
Oh,
Okay, it's
please.
a wonderful book. And I'm adding.
I am personally responsible for the agony of Christ. All my fault.
I need to tell you all, I can only stay until 2:30.
Okay, fine. We're gonna get started right now. I don't intend to stay that long either. I mean, you know. Okay, let's go. Miss Shirley.
Yes.
Today is a very important day, and I want to introduce this the right way. This is going to be painful. This is going to be tough, but every woman in America, in all over the world, has faced abuse in one way or another. Whether it's somebody who talks back to you because you're a woman, somebody who slams the door in your face because they're annoyed that you're a woman, or somebody who just mistreats you because you're a woman. It doesn't mean like an ally,
Yes.
but it means men in general. Now, today, Miss Shirley, because she's such a dear friend of mine, is going to tell her story, and eventually I'm going to write her story as she talks. So I'm going to get my iPad, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
Shall I start?
Now, what I want, ladies, is I want nobody to interrupt her, because this is a painful thing. And we have somebody else here who might decide to add. That's up to her. Okay, so let's start. Let me just get myself into print mode. Who is bothering me now?
Okay, Shirley, the stage is yours.
Tofi,
Yes.
Tofi.
Okay,
Yeah.
Toby, don't interrupt.
All right.
Shirley's story started from her earlier ages, and from when she was a child. Go ahead, Shirley, get started, because I don't
Okay.
want to.
I told, when Lynn asked me to do this, I said, I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me, because I don't feel sorry for me. From where I was and where I am today, I'll be 74 on Saturday. I have come such a long way. But so I'm going to start at my birth because something that my dad was very, both my parents were very poor. They were poor farm kids in the Dust Bowl and the Depression. And each of them were one of 8 and one of 9. So when my dad was 16, he begged his mother to emancipate him so that he could join the army to have some kind of a hope for a future. And he joined the army at 16, and by 24, he was at D-Day. He was in the Medical Service Corps. It's very important, you know, the background here. He was at D-Day, he was at Battle of the Bulge. And at D-Day, his commanding officer was killed, he was the highest ranking enlisted sergeant. So my dad became an officer, and that allowed him to move his whole family into a completely different life than if he had just stayed as an enlisted man. So those were beautiful gifts that a war gave him. He was at D-Day, Battle of the Bulge, came home, and my brother and I were born. I was born in 46, the end of 46. My brother was born in 48. And in 50, he was sent the very first troops out of Fort Lewis, Washington to Korea. He was Medical Service Corps. There is a Geneva Convention that states that you never invade a Red Cross. The Chinese surrounded their MASH unit in the middle of the night, swooped in and killed every wounded man in the hospital and the ambulances, and marched 121 men, not just into North Korea, but over to northern China.
Terrible.
Later, I just read a little article about this, about the missing POWs that were actually held in China. They took them on death marches. The few little things that he told me as a kid, they threw rocks at him when they would stand in public in the village and have to use the bathroom. Out of 121 men, 19 survived.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
But during that whole time, my mother very early received, and I still have it, a telegram from the Department of the Army that Captain Williams was missing in action and presumed dead. So she moved on with her life and fell in love with a dentist. And we didn't really, that's who we thought was she didn't tell us all this stuff, just, we were just little kids in Kansas City. About 3.5 years, they found these guys. Out of 121 medics, medics, please remember, are never armed.
Right.
They carry the medicine. They do not have weapons.
Right.
Out of the 121 doctors and medics who were captured, 19 survived.
Wow.
And they were found in northern China after the Korean conflict was over. So you could imagine the stunning shock that my mother got when she found out that he was alive.
Wonderful.
She did go to an attorney. I have to put this in there because my dad was already an alcoholic. He was born an alcoholic. And there have been issues like her, he beat her a few times when he was pregnant with me. He forced me to become right-handed by tying my left hand behind my back as a baby so that I never used my left hand. That's ignorance. He thought, old Southern thing. He thought it was the sign of the devil.
Okay.
All right, so he came
Miss X.
home.
She needs dig.
Go ahead, Shirley.
Oh, he came, he made it back to the United States. They were debriefed on the ship coming home that there was a real crazy man in Washington, D.C. who would probably be ordering all of these guys who had survived to go to the Joseph McCarthy hearings.
Had her to check her email.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My dad had to appear before Joseph McCarthy. As a grown person, I began to realize what a traumatic event that must have been for him. There was nothing un-American about my father. He loved this country and he loved the military, and to have to stand before Joseph McCarthy and prove that he wasn't a communist, I think was just one more.
I can't imagine.
One more nightmare nail in the coffin. My first memory of my dad coming home was the first night that he was in our apartment in Kansas City. And my brother and I shared a bedroom, and we huddled together in the bedroom as he beat my mom. We had never.
Oh my God.
He was beating and beating her, and we were shivering and shaking and crying in the little bedroom next to that. that was just the beginning of what was my childhood. He beat my mother constantly. He was drunk constantly, except when he was at work. He, of course, he was still in the military. We were stationed in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and then San Antonio, Texas, Heidelberg, Germany, Bangor, Maine. And then he retired and we moved back to Kansas City. The drinking just exacerbated, and it was really directed at my mother and me. The beatings, he never did beat my brother, but my brother would always run away. Consequently, my brother became a somewhat famous track star in Oklahoma and went to the University of Oklahoma on a track scholarship because he just knew how to run. And I always felt like I had to stay there and take care of my mother. When I was, I think 14 or 15, 14, we were in Kansas City and actually Overland Park, and my mom had gone to work. My dad came home drunk on a Saturday.
Oh boy.
And he just went insane. This was the first big beating I ever had. I had a little wrought iron bookcase in my bedroom with a radio and a Princess phone on it. He grabbed the wrought iron bookcase and he beat me with it.
Oh.
And my mother came home from work. I mean, I was nothing's, life-threatening, but I was cut and bruised and swollen. When my mom walked in the house and saw me, she called the police and had him arrested.
Good.
And she was going to file for divorce. I was terrified, and I don't believe I was wrong, that my dad would have killed all of us had she left him. I was so afraid he would burn the house down. I don't know why. I had such a horrible fear of fire, but I was just terrified. After about a week, I couldn't sleep, and I finally went to my mom and I said, "We're better to have him here than out there. Please bring him back home." And she did. And of course, there was some guilt laid on me later about that. But I just felt that we were safer if he was in the house than out there crazy drunk. And I do believe he would have killed every one of us. When I was 16, we had moved to Oklahoma. My dad opened up a business. And it was my first date after we moved to Tulsa at almost the end of my junior year. And the guy was the president of senior class. And I was like, whoa, I get even. He invited me to go to the band concert. Well, and I was all dressed up in a little Bobby Brown. Do you remember Bobby Brown?
Yes.
Yeah, I was in a little Bobby Brown suit and Capizio shoes. Well, when we got in the car, the guy, John, said to me, "Do you really want to go to the band concert, or would you just like to drive around and see Tulsa?" And I said, "I'd rather drive around and see Tulsa," because I didn't know where I was. And so we drove all around. And the last thing he said was, I'm going to show you the hill, this amazing hill. And it was pouring down rain. We got up to the top of this hill. It was called Turkey Mountain. And we stopped and he said, "Now watch." And he just fully accelerated, and the car, that's the last thing I remember. The car went spinning out of control, flipped over 7 times. And the next thing the first thing I remember is that I was floating above the car, brilliant white light. And I was looking down and I could see me in the car and I could see him in the car. And I thought, oh my God, I've died. This is really cool. It was it was a near-death experience.
Right. You read about that all the time.
But can you
Oh my God.
The very next thing I remember was hearing someone say, wrap her up, she's in shock. And they put me in an ambulance. Both my date and I were injured, probably the beginning of all my problems with my back and neck. I spent the night in the hospital, and when I
They
came
did her.
home, the next day, I was at home. My mom picked me up. My dad beat me almost
Sorry.
to death again
Thank God she's
because I
alive.
had lied to him. I didn't go to the band concert. I went on a drive,
Oh.
and we had a tri-story house at that time, and he beat me and kicked me all the way down 2
Oh
staircases.
my God.
And then I was so bloodied and beaten, and I already had this horrible, all the bruises and cuts from the accident. And I remember my mom saying, well, you'll stay home for a few days. Don't tell anybody what happened.
Right. Oh, God.
Oh my God.
What a story to live with. Go ahead,
She
Shirley.
didn't finish.
I think
Yeah. So at that time, I began to really observe my dad. I was terrified of him. I actually chose to go to the University of Tulsa rather than OU, University of Oklahoma, because subconsciously, I realized this many years later, I needed to protect my mom. I was terrified to leave her alone with him. So I lived at home and went to university. One night I was on a date with my then fiance. We pulled up to the driveway and he came out with a gun
oh my God.
because I was like 1 minute late. The beatings just never ended. It was just beating. He beat me with sticks, but mostly this guy was not big. He was 5'8" and pretty thin, but he had a constitution, and he would beat me, my mother, and then I would try to jump in and save her. And so he would beat me. And sorry.
If you can't do it,
Okay.
Shirley.
No,
you
I
don't-
can do it.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
All of this time, this was all hidden. I never could stand the actress, whatever she was, Suzanne Summers.
Yeah.
But years and years later, she wrote a book that was like my story, and it was called Secrets.
I read that.
Was a
I read
secret.
it twice.
Do you remember?
Oh my God.
And it blew
read it.
me away because my mom would just say, shh, don't tell anybody, don't tell anybody. So I always had excuses for why I had bruises and cuts and all this. My fiance was called him the dictator. I got married to my first husband at the end of my junior year, and I transferred to the University of Oklahoma because Scott ended up being stationed. He was ROTC, he was 4 years older than me, and took his chance to become an officer by going in and not having to go through the draft. So he became an officer. He was stationed down at Tinker Air Force Base. I graduated my last year. I look back on even that and how I was controlled so much by a man. I wanted to graduate from the University of Tulsa. It was the first time I had ever come in. I went to 9 schools in 12 years, all in different cities and different states and countries. And when I went to the University of Tulsa, we were all new. It was a new freshman class from everywhere. And I joined a sorority, Delta Gamma. I learned, I wasn't the oddball. We were all friends. And I had a wonderful, wonderful time at the university. I excelled in my classes. I was a rush chairman of the sorority. I was lantern and scroll, always on the dean's honor roll. Every time my grades would come in, my dad would beat me. I could have 5 A's and 1 B, and he would beat me for the B and then threaten to take me out of college, stop paying for my college if I didn't get that B up to an A. It was, I was just a nervous wreck all the time. I didn't know it. I didn't realize it. It had become, this is how I was, just keep the secrets and keep going. In 1968, I graduated 3 days after Bobby Kennedy was assassinated. And Scott had been given orders to come to California at Vandenberg Air Force Base, which is a Strategic Air Command missile base in Central California. And I got my first job teaching right away. I called my dad, I called my home in Tulsa to tell them I got my first job. I'm going to be a third grade teacher. Yay! And my dad got on the phone and said, I want your first checks for the next year. You owe me that. You owe me that.
I'm speechless. I can't even say anything.
Well, I ended up it came to where I realized that it took me, I entered therapy in my second year of teaching. I was a wreck. I was losing weight dramatically. I didn't know what was going on. Never heard the word anorexia or bulimia, but I began to binge and purge. And I was 5'8" at the time. I'm about 5'7" now. I got as low as 98 pounds.
Oh my God.
That was my way to deal with my suffering.
Yeah.
I got to go to a psychiatrist at the Air Force Base, and he was the first one to open my eyes, where I started spilling some of the truth. And that at the end of that year, Scott had spent his 4 years in the Air Force. He got his master's degree, got a job in LA, and my doctor, my psychiatrist, urged me to get in therapy immediately. He said, you need so much more therapy, Shirley. Well, I thought I was just fine. By the way, fine, I later learned in AA means fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
And this what makes you strong.
Don't interrupt her.
I love that because it was so natural for us to just say, oh, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Just like in Suzanne Summers' book. Shh, don't tell anyone. Scott beat me a couple of times, but he was more cruel with his mouth. He did not even allow me to have my own paychecks from the Longboat Unified School District. He got my checks, he deposited them in his bank account and gave me an allowance. And I put up with this. I thought that's what you were supposed to do. I didn't have a car. Occasionally he would let me drive his car, but thank God I was only about a half a mile from my school. So I always walked to and from my school. He finally he graduated, he got his master's. We moved to Southern California. We found a place that would take animals in Fountain Valley, which is in Orange County. And I immediately got a job teaching 5th grade in Fountain Valley Unified School District. 2 years later, it was just, I felt really more like I was being attacked mentally. There was some shoving, there was some slapping, but it was more mental, like, you're so dumb, you're worthless, you're stupid. Why is it so easy to be a teacher, blah, 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 blah. And I divorced him. And that was my first big step out of this, but it took a long, long time. He went back to Oklahoma and I stayed. Everybody, I don't have any contact with these people today, but my sorority sisters were saying, aren't you coming back? Aren't you coming back to Oklahoma? And I'm like, are you kidding? I've been kept out here. I have found my home. Oh, by the way, I was at the Isla Vista anti-war protest. Scott didn't know that. I had the car that day and I drove to Isla Vista outside of Santa Barbara at UCSB, University of California, Santa Barbara, and I protested in my very first anti-war.
Yay!
Yay, go Shirley!
That is where they set the Bank
What
of America.
doesn't kill us make
That's
us
the protest where they set the Bank of America on fire. And
Okay, I know.
I knew I got to get out before I get arrested. So
Right.
Scott never knew that I was in that protest. He ordered me to vote for Richard Nixon, but he didn't know that I didn't.
Republican.
My grandpa had told me, my grandpa was the most amazing Dust Bowl Depression survivor. He was a Democrat. And he said, his family, his children, and he and my grandma were saved by the great programs of FDR, with the CCC and the WPA programs. When I was 17 and going to college, I went to visit my grandpa and I said, "How do you know who to vote for?" And he didn't have any cheats. He was just a little old poor, he was just awesome. I still think. He said, "Slim, you just go in that ballot room and you mark Democrat, Democrat, Democrat." He had a portrait of FDR and JFK in his living room. Of course, they were just phony, but he poked at FDR and he goes, "That man saved our family. That man saved this state." And no one in Oklahoma should ever forget that. Built buildings and dams and lakes. Well, as you know from the red map, Oklahoma's been ever since. They've all forgotten that. They're fanatic Republicans. It's just disgusting. Anyway, I veer off a little bit. About 4 years later, I was introduced through another teacher, a guy who was 6'7", weighed 235 pounds. So we're talking about outweighing me by over 100 pounds. Okay. He wooed me. I would wake up in the morning. He had been by my little apartment and dropped dozens of roses. I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." I married him and he started beating me.
Oh my God.
And this
my God.
This really was the worst because he was so big. And I won't go through there were beatings just night after. He would get drunk and come in, beat me and tell me he was going to get drunk again. Well, one night I was on the phone with my father and I was sitting at the divider between the kitchen and the little dining room in our apartment. And there was a wood cabinet above my head. And he came in drunk as a skunk and said, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "My dad." And he threw his keys at me.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
They went above my head and pierced the wood
Oh,
Oh my
and
God.
hung there. That's how strong he was in the velocity. I realized those keys could have come right into my head.
Oh my God.
He kicked
Oh,
me,
Genesis, I'm
beat me. He
sorry.
took me upstairs into the shower and beat me in the shower. He punched holes in the walls. He kicked me down the staircase. He broke a piece of, I had a little Kennedy rocker. He beat me with the Kennedy rocker. I was almost blacked out. He kicked me across the floor and he said, "I'm going to go get drunk. And when I come back, I'm going to kill you."
Oh my God, I remember that story.
As soon as he was gone, I was wearing a red robe. I changed out of my clothes and I used to wear a robe. And when to relax for the night, I grabbed my purse, I grabbed my little Cocker Spaniel, and all I had on was my robe and some underwear. And I didn't have any friends. You become so isolated when you're just hiding. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. "Oh, how did you get the bruises?" "Oh, I tripped." You know what a klutz I am. The only person I knew to go to, we didn't have phones back then, so I just drove to her apartment in Irvine, was my student teacher.
Wow.
I had no one else to go to. And I beat on her door and she answered. She goes, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And I told her that Larry had beaten me and was threatening to come back and kill me. She called our school nurse. Pat came out, rendered first aid, told me there's no way you can go back to school looking like this. You're going to have to wait till this is healing. And she gave me the number of a doctor at the VA hospital, the Navy hospital here in Long Beach. I immediately moved to Long Beach. First of all, I left Orange County, where I didn't belong anyway. I was still teaching. I left and moved up here to Long Beach, and I can still see me standing at Las Cottas Diagonal on a payphone. Remember those? Talking to this Navy psychiatrist who specialized in alcohol, the sailors, the
Oh,
Navy
good.
men coming back from alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
We talked and talked, and he said, Shirley, you're a co-alcoholic. And I said, what do you mean? I don't even drink. And he goes, you are an enabler for alcoholics. And he said, and you draw them to you like radar. You just, oh, here's another alcoholic. I'm going to fix this one and he's going to fix me. He said, it's like you need radar on the top of your head that just goes, run, run, run. Well, it gave me enough courage I filed for divorce. I never saw this guy again. 6
Thank
months
God.
later, I went to the Orange County Courthouse and he showed up, and that was that. And for a while, I had a pretty peaceful little life. I was still teaching in Fountain Valley, living in the shore in Long Beach. And then I started doing it again. When I quit teaching after 12 years. We'd gone on a strike. I had 42 special ed kids, kindergarten through 8th grade, in my program, and an aide 1 day a week. That situation was all over Fountain Valley. We had so many Vietnamese boat people coming in. They were overloading our classrooms. Our school was built for 800 students, and I think we had over 1,000 when I quit. We went on strike for 2 weeks, and I would have stayed out forever. I didn't care. But a lot of teachers had homes, and they were really afraid. They've never done. We were the first district to ever strike in the very conservative red part of Southern California, Orange County. So we walked back in with less than we had when we walked out. And I had married a very nice guy. This is my 3rd marriage now. That's where I got the name DeMarco. I love that name.
Nicest guy you could hope to know.
Love that. He was a really nice guy. But I had quit teaching and was recruited by, I won't say the company, but a major financial institution who'd been ordered by the federal government to start hiring women in sales. And I was our insurance agent who did the mortgage insurance on our house, recommended me, unknowns to me, and I started being heavily recruited by this major company. And that began my own personal downfall. My sales manager was introduced to me, and I had smoked pot. But nothing. It was never in my house. It was just something that if you were at a party or something, I didn't see anything wrong with it. And I smoked pot, and he introduced me. He drew a big line of cocaine. I didn't know it was a big white line on his desk. And I walked into his office and I said, what is that? And he said, that's going to make you the top salesperson in the country.
Oh, God.
I was already 300th in the company out of something like 10,000 agents. I was the first woman in my office to ever make $1 million round table. And this guy, I'm so sick. It really gets sick here. We started having an affair while he was married.
I didn't know. I thought you told me.
I didn't tell you that one. I'm not at all proud of it. And he was abusive to me. And at one point we sold a medical insurance policy to a family that I had taught. Both of their kids, I had taught Tammy since kindergarten to 8th grade. I had taught Billy from 3rd grade to 8th grade. And so they loved me. And this sales manager and I went down to their house, and he lied to them that if they wanted a pool for Bill's rehabilitation, the insurance company would pay for it 100%.
Oh, God.
I'm like, what? That's the kind of stuff. Well, it all busted forth. And he was called on the carpet by the company. And he came to me and grabbed me by the shoulders and shook me and said, if you get up there and tell the truth, I will kill you. I will kill you.
All these threats.
Oh my God.
In the meantime, I became what I never thought I would become. I became a drug addict. It was never, I became totally addicted to cocaine and then to alcohol. And in 1987, I started working out at a little gym, mainly because it had tanning beds.
Mhm.
You'll always see me covered up now because I'm Irish Welsh. I have so many scars from cancer and sun damage all over my body that I refuse to show my legs or my arms anymore. It's just
Mhm.
that a little vanity there. But I really joined to do the tanning beds because it was faster and I could be real tan in the winter. And that's where I met Frank. And the following 3rd of July, we were the only two in his gym, and I had moved to this wonderful little old Spanish, it had been a hotel right on the beach back in the 20s. And I had moved into this wonderful old vintage apartment that had God, it was gorgeous with a patio. And we could barbecue out there. And I said, what are you doing tomorrow on the 4th of July? And Frank looked at me and said, nothing. And I said, would you like to come to my place and have a barbecue? And he said, okay. And I then took over him. And I moved in with him. And from the moment I moved in with him, this wonderful, kind, non-drinking,
Wonderful
just
man.
peaceful man started coming home to find me passed out on the floor every night, drunk.
Oh, God.
And cigarette butts all around me. And I would always say, oh, I just worked so hard today. I just passed out in the living room. He wasn't sure what happened, but he started looking and finding where I was hiding bottles of vodka. He marked a bottle of vodka, and the next day the whole bottle was gone. And on Christmas Eve, he gave me a 30-day notice to get out of his life. He said, I can't live like this anymore, Shirley. I'm going to go stay with Dawn. You can stay here in my apartment, but in 30 days, you are out of here. I will not live with this. So the tables had totally turned. I beat up the Christmas tree. I destroyed a 7-foot Christmas tree with beautiful ornaments on it. I beat it up. My dad beat up a Christmas tree when I was in Tulsa. I just was repeating my dad.
Wow.
The police were
Insane.
called.
Yeah.
The police were called. It was Signal Hill, which is just above Long Beach. It's a hill. It used to be all of Long Beach, but it became its own little incorporated city. And 2 cops came out because calls had been made that I was disturbing the peace. And I sat on the staircase outside of the apartment. And I was like, this cop who could have arrested me said, Shirley, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but do you think you might have a drinking problem? And I roared back. I remember this. And I went, everybody's telling me I have a drinking problem. I'm not drinking. I have a cold. And he goes, okay. He goes, I'm going to let this go tonight. I have to write it up, but I'll let it go. The day after I beat up that incident and my beating up the Christmas tree, Frank came into the house and he gave me a 30-day notice to get out of his life. He said, I'm done. I can't live like this. I don't know what's wrong with you, Shirley, but I refuse to live like this. And he left. He left I didn't see him. He just left his apartment and let me stay there. I left out something very significant.
Yes.
The summer before I had this conversation, I met Frank. I I wanted so badly to have a relationship with my father.
Mm.
And I drove all the way from Long Beach, California to the eastern side of Texas to visit with my dad, who is now fully retired. He'd actually owned a business, sold a business, had a great retirement, had a beautiful Victorian home. The first 2 days, everything was fine, although my radar really went off when I opened his refrigerator, and the only thing in the refrigerator was a bottle of wild turkey.
Oh, boy.
The third night, in the middle of the night, I was awakened by my father dragging me out of bed by my hair
Oh my God.
down the hallway and into the fully lit dining room. He stood me up like this
Mm.
and then held a Colt 45 to my
Oh,
head.
my.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
I'm gonna kill you, and then I'm gonna kill myself. And I just screamed, and I pushed and kicked him, and he went flying across the hardwood floor, hit his head into this big mahogany buffet. And for just seconds, this is all happening in milliseconds, I thought, oh my God, I've killed my dad. And
Wow.
as I was thinking that, it's just like he rose up and he started at me again. I grabbed that gun. There was unbelievable saving grace. The guest bedroom had a door that went directly out to the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
I grabbed my purse and my keys. I was in my pajamas. I got in my car and started driving off of his property. By this time, he was around at the front gate, and he was trying to close the gate so I couldn't leave. I crashed through the gate.
Good
Oh.
girl.
And drove all the way to Dallas. And then I turned around and went to a payphone. It was a small town. My dad was always a Methodist, that we were raised by Methodist. You know, my great granddaddy was a circuit riding preacher who who brought the family over from Arkansas before Oklahoma was a state. And he preached to the Cherokee Indians, the Choctaw, who had survived the Trail of Tears. So I called the Methodist church. I just asked for a number, and the minister came to the phone, and I told him what happened. And I said, can you help him? Can you help him? I can't, I just don't know what else to do. And he said, Shirley, we don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
We have tried everything. As a church, we've tried him with AA. He is hopeless. It is a hopeless situation. So it was breaking dawn, and I did something that everybody else thought I was crazy when I told them, but I was driven to go back and see him. I knew, because I'd been living with his blackouts. And there he was, sitting in his underwear on his bed. And when I walked in, he goes, oh, my baby girl, oh my God, why did you leave me? Why did you leave me? And I'm standing there
Thank
going,
you.
he doesn't remember a thing.
Oh, my God.
Total blackout. Why did you leave me? Why? And so I said, Daddy, I just went for a drive. I need to get back to California. So I want you to, I said, we sat on his back porch, and I said, Daddy, you've got a brand new bass fishing boat. You've got this beautiful home. My mom had long divorced him. I said, I think, what about getting a dog? How about getting a couple of cats? You need life around you, Daddy. You can be happy. You have all this. You have medical care for the rest of your life, free. You've got so much here. But I got to get back to California. That was right. Yeah, it was about 3 days after 4th of July. Funny, and it was a year before that I'd met Frank. No, a year after. I drove back home, and I got that gun, and it was a 1928 Colt 45.
Mhm.
Oh,
I had never held a gun in my life.
Oh, God.
As I drove back through the deserts, somewhere between New Mexico and Arizona, I just stopped in the middle of the desert and off the side of the road and I threw that gun out into the desert. I didn't know what else. I was terrified.
Right.
God, thank
I
God.
threw it out in the desert. And I had people later saying, "Go 45, you could have got a lot of money for that." Well, I don't want to make money.
It's not about money, it's about getting
Something
rid
that was
of it.
held to my head, and he could have shot me
Ah,
in the head. Uh,
Jesus.
for the next from the end of July until through Christmas, he would call me, and that's when I got an answer machine. By the way, my first answer machine, because I couldn't. It was my only way of monitoring who was that if he was on the phone. If he wasn't on the phone, I just hung up. He would leave message after message. "Oh, my baby girl, you need to come back here. I need you. They're going to amputate my leg. I need you to come back and be with me." Well, I had the foresight to get the next door neighbors, and they were like acres apart. But I got down the road, I got her phone number. So at one point I called her because I refused to talk to my father. And I said, "Is he going to have his leg amputated?" And she said, "No, Shirley, he's just fine. He's drunk all the time.
Oh,
He is
God.
drunk from the minute he gets up till the minute he goes to bed." So I never talked to my dad after that, what happened in over that 4th of July
Honey.
week. I
Now, Jet.
sorry, on April the 8th of 1985, which was the next year, I got a call from my brother who had been living, he did the runaway thing. He and his wife went out of the country and lived 13 years all over Europe and then taught school in Iran until they had to escape from the revolution, and then went back to Oklahoma and then went back to Saudi Arabia. They were gone for over 13 years. My brother and his wife and daughter came back in August of 84, which was a month after I had seen him in Texas. And in April of 85, my dad drove to his hometown. His sister-in-law went with him, and they went to a family reunion at a little lake. Jim got the call that on the way back from my dad, the last words he said were, "I had a wonderful day." He was happy.
Mm.
And I got a call from my brother on an answer machine that Dad was dead. And I remember just collapsing and falling to my knees and saying, oh my God, thank you. He's out of his suffering. He is just, thank you." And, but it also led to me getting just worse. That's when I met Frank, and I started dating that summer. Our first date was July the 4th. We watched the fireworks off the Queen Mary. You know, I thought I'd found my Prince Charming. Well, I did. He is. But I was just destroying it with my drinking. I had to be taken to the hospital twice to have my stomach pumped. I found pills and started using those. We had a big place on the top of the hill, and he had a roommate. Well, I found out that roommate was taking pain pills. And so I broke into his room and started taking all of his pain pills. And that was one of the times I had to have my stomach pumped. So fast forward then to December of 86. Frank gave me a 30-day notice to get out of his life, and he left. And I didn't see him. I drank and drank. I was drinking up to a half-gallon vodka a day. That's an incredible amount of booze. And smoking cigarettes like a chimney. And one night, something happened. And all I can say, it was like when I was in that car wreck back in Tulsa at the end of my junior year, I saw myself floating in the cloud in a light, brilliant white light. And I could look down and I saw the car, I saw me, and I saw my date in the car. And I was floating up in this brilliant white light, and I went, oh, I've died. This is so amazing. This is beautiful. And then snap, I was back in my body, and I could hear the paramedics or whatever they were called back then say, wrap her up. She's in shock. Get her in an ambulance. Well, a similar thing happened a couple of nights before New Year's Eve. I was drunk, and suddenly I just had this light around me, and I realized I was an adult child of an alcoholic. I'd never said
Wow.
that before, and that I was an alcoholic. And I picked up the phone and I asked the information to give me, what's the number for the National Council of Alcoholism? And they gave me a number, and they said, I called, and this very nice man answered, and he said, Shirley, and somebody's going to call you, right? Where are you? And I said, Signal Hill, California. And he said, somebody from there is going to call you right now. And within seconds, his phone rang again, and this guy goes, Shirley, my name is Bob. And I said, hi, Bob. And I was just uncontrollable sobbing. And I said, Bob, I'm an adult child of an alcoholic, and I think I'm an alcoholic.
Oh,
And he goes, that's okay, Shirley. So am I.
oh,
And that's when the kindness began.
thanks God.
That's okay, Shirley. So am I. And he said, he said, where are you? And I told him, and he said, do you know where Memorial Hospital is? And I said, yes. And he said, well, right across the little side street from the emergency room is a building, and it's called Coastview. And it is a rehab center for adult children, alcoholics, drug addicts. He said, would you go to a meeting tomorrow night? It's adult
Great.
children, alcoholics meeting. And I said, okay. I had bought myself, by the way, I was making so much money selling insurance, and because I had an NASD security broker dealer's license. I was making money that I never dreamed I would making, but it's all going up my nose or down my throat. I don't know. I had bought myself a brand new 1986 red Corvette, fully loaded.
Oh, wow.
I drove that car. I, to this day, cannot tell you how I got over to Memorial Hospital. I can't remember driving.
Wow.
And it's a miracle that I wasn't stopped for drunk driving. I mean, it's just a miracle. But I
Yeah.
got in there and I took over the meeting. It's just like I'm doing here. But I was drunk. And as we started, the meeting ended, and as we started down the hall, this little woman was next to me, and I said, I saw a refrigerator, a miniature refrigerator, and it had the word detox only. And I turned to this woman whose name was Sally, and I said, where am I? She said, you don't know where you are? I said, I don't know where I am. And she said, you're at a place called Coastview, Shirley. This is a drug and alcohol rehab, but we have open meetings here.
Mhm.
You know, she said, and I turned to her and I said, I'm checking in.
Oh,
So I
thank
went to the
goodness.
admissions desk, and I was still drunk, but getting a little more sober. And I said, I
Thank
want
God
to
for
check
that you
in. I want to check in. I need help. And so they called the counselor. This is like 10 o'clock at night, 2 nights before New Year's Eve. And the guy came in, we sat in a little room, and he said, you need to check in, Shirley. All we need to do is make sure your insurance is going to cover this. And he said, so we'll put you in a room tonight. And I went, no. You know what? I was really getting sober now. I said, I have so much to do. I have so much to do, and I'll check in next month.
Yeah,
And
right.
he looked at me. I had, these are just small little phrases, but he looked at me and he said, Shirley, I want you to think about this. You just had a heart attack and you're in the ambulance. You can't do anything. You've got to get well.
That's right.
This is what
Right.
this is like. You are having a total breakdown. You
Wow.
need help. You got to check in. Well, I had to go back to my apartment because they had to get the okay from my insurance company. And for the next 24 hours, I drank and drank and drank and drank and drank. I called Frank and said, I'm going into rehab. Will you take me? And he said, okay. I remember he had a Cadillac at the time. And he drove. when he dropped me off, I stumbled and just crawled into the facility. And I can remember hearing him take off. And later I thought he must have been thinking, thank God I'm done with this crazy woman.
Yeah, but he stayed with her.
So I went in, not at first. I went into rehab and I had to go into detox. That was the worst part because I went through the shakes, the withdrawals, the tremors. On January 2nd was my first sober day.
Oh,
And I will be sober 34 years. On January
oh, Shirley, that is so
Yay.
It
fantastic.
was so amazing for me.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Well,
You're strong. You're brave.
well, I also had I mean, I couldn't have asked for better help. And one of the doctor who ran the program, who drew on the chalkboard one day, and I was one of the older ones in this group. They were mostly kids in their late teens and early 20s. And everybody gets sober at the end of the year, right? So I already knew I am never going to drink again. I am never doing drugs again. I am done. He drew a stick house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The house with the gable and the rooms in the house. And he wrote at the top ACA. And then he started writing in one room, alcohol, another room, drugs, alcohol, anorexia, bulimia, overeating, shopping, gambling, sex addiction. He just went on in all the rooms. And he said, when you get out of here, you think you're going to think you're cured because you're not drinking or doing drugs. But the typical recovering alcoholic just goes to the next room and starts in with the religion, the anorexia, the bulimia, the shopping, the just all these different things. Because you have the disease, and that was what the OCD was, obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I never heard that phrase either. So that hit me like a ton of rocks. And I don't know what anybody else thought. I didn't care. I went, oh my God, I've been in almost every room in that house. I never did gamble. I never did shop, but I did everything else. Oh, and I didn't do religion.
Okay.
So I went through rehab, and the first day that I was out, once I was out of detox, we had meetings we had to go to at 7:00. We had to make our bed and be in a meeting, sitting in this big hall in a meeting. And I looked behind me, and over on the other side of the room was a firefighter who worked out at the gym. And my first thought was, oh my God, he's going to know. And then I started laughing. I looked at him and went, you're one of me. So after the meeting, he came up to me.
Wow.
He came up to me. And he said, do you have family here to help you through family week? Because the 4th week of rehab is family week. He said, I don't have anyone. And he said, well, what about Frank? And I said, oh, he's done with me, Augie. He will never, ever want to see me again. Well, unbeknownst to me, Augie, a fireman, and his wife, Ramona, both worked out at Frank's gym. And they went to the gym and said, Frank, you are going. She has no one. She doesn't have any friends. She has no family. You need to go through family week with her. And at the very least, you will have understanding of what has gone on.
Right.
And Frank was, man, I don't want to go. They said, we have arranged our schedules for the next 5 days. Ramona and I will cover your gym by changing our shifts. They were both sheriffs, firemen and a sheriff. And Frank came to the first day of family week, and it was 8 hours a day.
Oh my God.
And he was angry. He said, I shouldn't be the one here. It should be your mother. It should be your brother. I don't belong here. You. And the counselor said, Frank, could you just try to hang in there with us?
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, by the end of the 5 days, Frank had a pretty good idea that I didn't choose this. I didn't decide one morning to wake up and be a drug addict or an alcoholic, that I suffered from a terrible disease that I inherited from not just my dad, but from other members in my mother and father's family, and that I was trying to get well. And they said, it doesn't matter if you get back together or not. What matters is that you understand.
Exactly.
And so at the end of the 5 days, I had no place to live. And I
Oh.
begged him to let me move back in with him. Well, the counselors had already told him, no matter how dramatic she gets, you do not let her move in with you. She needs to focus entirely on her rehab.
Yes.
So do you remember I told you I went to that ACA meeting and the woman
Right.
I'm walking out with?
Yeah.
2 weeks later, I was sleeping on the carpeted floor of a woman whose husband had left her and her house in Belmont Shore. And she didn't have any furniture in this bedroom. And she said, you can stay there until you can find a place to live. I woke up in the middle of the night about 4 nights in, and I couldn't breathe. And she had to call the paramedics. And I spent the next 4 weeks in intensive care. I had
Oh my
my
God.
first CAT scan. I had rheumatic fever. And and they called, the doctor came in and said, you know, the CAT scans are very new back in 1986, 87.
Yeah, this is a recent thing.
Yeah, this isn't like, you know, he said, how come you didn't tell me you had rheumatic fever?
Oh
And
my
I
God.
said, before. He said, you've had rheumatic fever before. And I said, I've never heard I had rheumatic fever. He said, you have scar tissue on your lungs and your
Oh,
heart
boy.
that are directly caused by rheumatic fever. So I called my mom and I said, Mom, why didn't you tell me I had rheumatic fever? And she said, are you talking about when you were so sick when you were 8 years old in San Antonio? And I said, well, that's the sickest I ever was. And she said, they told us you had pneumonia. And I have a real clear memory of that because guess where my dad was? And this will add to what must have devastated him. Joseph McCarthy ordered those 19 POWs that were held by the Chinese. He ordered them to appear in Washington, D.C. before the Senate subcommittee hearing on un-American activities. He accused every one of them of being communists,
Oh, God.
Horrible.
which, you know, I totally understand now. My dad, that must have just driven him crazy. I remember one time watching him, a Jehovah Witness, you know, just because they don't salute the flag. We were in San Antonio. He was working out in the yard. The Jehovah Witness came to try to, you know, witness to us. And my dad was chasing him down the street going, with a broom going, you communist, you communist, you communist. Anyway, that's how I remember how sick I was. So I
Yeah.
said, Mom, I think it was rheumatic fever, not pneumonia, because I have scar tissue on my heart and lungs. And that's what they think I have now. It was a blessing. I was 4 weeks in rehab. I was 4 weeks in hospital. The first 2 weeks I was in intensive care. And then they moved me to the pulmonary function unit. And I spent the next 2 weeks in that part of the hospital. So as I was getting better, I asked if I knew there was a meeting, an AA meeting in the basement of that hospital, an open AA meeting. I said, can I go to the meeting? And they said, well, we're going to have to hook you up and wheel you down there with all these IVs. And I said, I just need a meeting.
Good for
And
you.
so when I leaned, they put me, because I was in a wheelchair, against the wall, and it was a big meeting.
Mm.
And I finally started sharing, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't go back to insurance. I don't want to be a teacher anymore. I don't know what to do, and I don't have any place to live. Can somebody help me? I couldn't believe that this was happening to me.
Yeah.
The woman who was walking next to me and said, that's detox. Don't you know where you're at?
Go ahead.
She walked up to me after that meeting. She said, do you remember me? And I said, I sort of recognize your face. She said, I was with you in that ACA meeting I
Right.
walked with you down the hall. She said, I need a roommate.
Oh,
I-
wow.
I have
God
2
bless.
children, 3 big dogs, and a bunch of cats, but I need a roommate. I can't afford to pay my rent. And I'd always had nice places. Mostly I lived by myself in between all my marriages. I moved into this little apartment with a 13-year-old son, an 8-year-old daughter, 2 big German shepherds, Peter Pan cats, and my bedroom. When I walked in and saw the bedroom, it was just I was able to always have nice furniture and not, I was
Yeah,
really,
well, that's not what this was about.
I was an obsessive compulsive cleaner too. That was
Yeah.
the big deal. Back when, as a kid, I would wait till he passed out. I would go get up and clean the whole house so that it would look perfect. And if everything looked perfect, then it was perfect. And I'm looking at
Hyperachiever.
this bedroom in this house and I'm going, oh my God. And I called Frank. I said, please let me come back. He goes, nope. They said, you need to be on your own, Shirley. And so we didn't communicate again until the next set phase. Well, I moved in with Sally and I started cleaning houses.
Yeah.
I was such a good cleaner that I had a
For
friend
you.
posted at his church. I was making, and I was being paid cash. So I was
Yeah.
making pretty damn nothing like, I had made over $200,000, which in the 80s was a hell of a lot of money. And
Yeah.
all of it went up my nose,
Just for
every
cleaning.
bit of it.
That's
Uh,
such an achiever you are.
I'm cleaning houses and I'm loving it. And everybody was just like, oh my God, I've never had anybody clean my house like this. You're a best. And I said, I guess so. I'm a cleanaholic. And I did that. And then, the night before, see, now I have to go backwards again. The night before when I went to the AA meeting and they had to wait for 24 hours to get permission from my insurance to cover me. Someone had given Frank a bottle of scotch for Christmas. Well, Frank didn't drink at all. He just didn't drink. How unusual. He was a healthy, beautiful man. He ate healthy foods. He counted sodium way before anybody knew about sodium. And I had watched him put that bottle of scotch up above the electric oven in the cabinet. I drank that entire bottle of scotch, waiting for them to tell me the insurance had said okayed my entering rehab. And Frank actually dropped me off at the hospital. I was drunk as a skunk. I fell out of the car and dragged myself into the rehab. And I had forgotten to bring anything. I didn't bring a toothbrush, a toothpaste. I didn't bring cigarettes. Well, guess what? They didn't let you smoke anyway. I found a fabulous meeting just down the road in Sunset Beach, and it was an old timers. You'll get a kick out of this. The place was called. It's still there. It's called Thursdays, and it had been a bar where a lot of the old timers that I got sober with used to get drunk in. But when
Wow.
the old man died, he had left the building to AA.
Oh my God.
That's
And it-
marvelous.
Isn't that amazing?
That's
You're talking
amazing.
beachfront property.
Wow, that's
Still there on
incredible.
Coast Highway in Sunset Beach, and it's called Thursdays.
Mhm.
Oh,
And I
wow.
started going to those meetings and I loved them. I got hit so many times hard. I'd whine and cry. This old man, we called him Singing Sam. Singing Sam said, I would whine and cry. And then he'd raise his hand. He'd go, Shirley, you got Radio K-Fuck playing in your head. You got to turn the channel. You need to change the channel. Radio K-Fuck.
I love that.
I spent so much time with that. Other people were going to fancier places and met women, just women and stuff. I loved this meeting.
Yeah.
I got so damn much sobriety in that first year. Well, in May of '87, I'm now 6 months sober. On all holidays, Thursdays is open 24 hours a day. There's meetings 24 hours a day because holidays can be a really.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So
That is
I was at the meeting
unbelievable.
for
Wow.
Memorial Day, and we were talking about being rigorously honest, and I thought, I've got to tell Frank about that bottle of scotch. Now, I hadn't
Wow.
seen him since he went through family week with me. So I hadn't seen him since the end of January, and we were now at the end of May. I knocked on his door, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I need to show you something. I need to be honest with you." And I walked up through the living room and into the kitchen, and I opened that cabinet, and I pulled out that bottle of scotch, and I said, "There isn't any scotch in here, Frank. This is tea." I had filled the bottle with iced tea so that he wouldn't know. And I said, "Just in case you want to give it to somebody, I want you to know that I drank the whole bottle and it's nothing but tea."
Yeah.
And I left, and I think we kind of hugged that day. And then about somewhere in the middle of June, he called me and he said, we just talked. And then about a week after that, in my red Corvette, I was supposed to meet this old guy, Singing Sam, and take him for a ride in my Corvette down to the meeting in Sunset Beach. And he didn't show up, and I locked my keys in the car. And I'm like, I don't have the money to get the keys locked out. You know, it's like $1,000 to set up a Corvette. And so I called the gym, thinking Frank's at lunch. Audie will answer, and I'll ask him to come and pick me up and take me back to Sally's house. Frank answered the phone, and I was stunned. And I said, "Oh my God, I didn't think you would answer." I said, "I've locked my keys in the car. I'm down on Coast Highway at the Carl's Jr. Can you just pick me up and take me to Sally's house? I need, so I can crawl through the window and get my keys." And he did. And he said, "Why didn't you think you could call me?" And I said, why would I think you would want to talk to me? Well, I got my keys, and we started driving me back to the Carl Jr. And he pulled over, and we just started talking. And the next thing, we were both crying and sobbing and hugging. And we said, maybe we can start over now. Something, we knew there was a connection there, but I had fucked it up so bad and hurt him so much. I didn't tell you that at Christmas, his parents flew out from Florida to meet me. And I was drunk through the whole visit. I cooked a raw turkey and burnt dressing, and they weren't there for me to beat up the Christmas tree. They had left, but they were like, "Son, you need to get away from this girl. You need to get away from her. You can't live like this." We started slowly dating. We agreed to date for just date. We didn't sleep together. We didn't do anything. We just dated.
Good, that's a smart thing to do.
And in September of that year, I wrote his parents a letter apologizing to them and telling them some of my story. And I said, "I believe I'm really truly in love with your son, and I hope you'll give me a chance because I think he's in love with me too." And they wrote back and said, "It's all forgiven.
Oh, that's
I
beautiful.
want our son to be happy. And if he's happy with you, then we forgive you."
Wow.
And he then asked me to marry him. I was sober on 1.5 years when we got married. On October the 8th of 1988, we got married, and in a church. And we've been married now for over 32 years.
Wow.
And never once has this man hurt me. He's never once laid a hand on me. I found my soulmate. I didn't find the rich man. I never was looking for that anyway. I just wanted someone who loved me. But I was unlovable.
Yeah.
I was sick. And by going to that week back in rehab the year before, he learned that I had a disease, that
That's
this
it, we
was
have to look
so
at it.
much more,
Good.
that I wasn't choosing this, that it was in my DNA.
Yes.
And they were also, as I told you, the ones who said, you can't go back with her yet. Maybe you'll never go back with her, but don't take her back now. She has got to focus on getting sober and staying sober.
Yeah.
So I was sober a year and a half before we married.
Wow.
And I can tell you that it's just been amazing. We've gone through a lot of shit. Frank was diagnosed with cancer. I had multiple reoccurrences of pneumonia, couldn't breathe, he would rush me up to the community hospital and they would do breathing treatments. I'd come home. So all this angst was still in there, but he was so kind and so good to me. And just, it's amazing, that I've been sober 34 years and we've been married 32 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
long story continues.
That's so beautiful.
Right.
It's just
The healing that's
unbelievable.
been done has come through so many places. AA, I went for a long time to a place called Agape in Santa Monica. And the founding minister of Agape, was Church of Religious Science, but it was way metaphysical. So there was no, and it was mostly Black. And I loved it, I got to tell you, because when that choir stood up and started singing,
Well,
I
what-
just turned to my girlfriend and told me about it. I said, I'm home. I love this. There's nothing like
You gotta say it.
gospel
Hallelujah.
Black singers and dressed in African garb, swaying back and forth and sing. And I got real involved. He was very famous because he
Thank
was
God.
one of the people featured in the book, The Secret. He was the Black man with the dreads. If you have the copy of The Secret or ever read it or saw it, he was one of the co-authors in there. Our choir sang for the inauguration, not the inauguration, but the nomination of Barack Obama in Denver, Colorado.
Wow.
They
Wow,
sang
that's a big deal.
convention.
Wow.
They sang with the guy singer from the Black Eyed Peas.
Mhm.
Really?
This was a choir of 120 voices. This was no
Amazing.
6 people, 12 people choir. They were rocking out, man, and they
Oh,
were
I love it. I
they
love
were
it.
never religion. It wasn't like, oh Jesus. It was just, we're Catholic, it was one of my very best friends is a retired LAPD. She's 4 years older than me. She just had her birthday last week. Her present was getting Donald Trump gone.
Oh, here we go.
And she, as we got closer and closer, she was like, Shirley, you know what the problem with you is? You don't see color. And I realized she's right. I never saw color.
I neither did
I saw people.
That's right.
And-
and that's the way
And
it
I
is.
went back and flashed on when we were stationed in Heidelberg, Germany. I brought home in 8th grade, I brought home for lunch a Black boy that was in my
I know
class.
this story. I know.
Of course.
And my mother was grimacing and she made us tuna sandwiches. And I came home that afternoon and she just shook me and she said, don't, and please forgive me, this is not my language, but I have to tell you what was said. She said, I don't want you ever to bring a nigger into our house again. I had never heard my father use words like that. Never. It was the beginning of my realization. My mother was a racist. She was born a racist. I could go back now. I continued when the psychiatrist wrote up my final diagnosis for releasing me from from rehab. I had a wonderful Chinese doctor, and I don't know how he figured it out because I never told them, but he said, Shirley, I can't write you up as an alcoholic. It's a secondary problem. You're an anorexic and bulimic. And I remember looking at him going, how did you know that? And he goes, you reek of it. You're obsessed with being skinny. You're obsessed with being, and I could tell that you purge. And I was like, oh my God, I've been busted again. I've been free from that since that took longer. But when I found out that I had Barrett's esophagus, which can kill you,
Yes, I know it can.
Yeah.
I told my gastroenterologist that I was still binging and purging, not as much. And she said, Shirley, if you keep doing that, you're going to die.
Yeah.
You are going to kill yourself. You already have Barrett's esophagus.
Life, not this.
That was it. I'm sober from everything. My anorexia, bulimia, and my alcohol. My
So
drugs.
proud of you. We
Right.
are
In
I just want to
2011
hug you. I wish I could hug you.
Me
Virtual
too.
hug.
Okay, I think I want to leave, Shirley.
In
I'd like to.
2011,
Hug for you.
Okay.
my spine
Hug
collapsed,
for you. Hug
and
for
I
you.
had to have. I fought it. But there was a time when I came where I couldn't even sleep through the night. There was so much pain in my leg, and this wonderful Muslim doctor from Iran.
Allah Akbar.
Oh, he was so fabulous. I still see him. Dr. Roshan said he kept giving me epidurals, even though he knew, but he was only, I had asked him how old he was, but I didn't know it then. He kept giving me epidurals and it wasn't working. And he said, it's not working, Shirley, because it's not your leg, it's your back.
Oh,
And I'm like, no, it's not, it's my leg. Well, I ended up one night in May, I literally crawled out to, we have an old 1918 house and the garage is in the back, separated. And I crawled out there and went into the garage. And for a second, I thought I'll just get in the car and I'll kill myself.
Bless you.
The pain was,
Yeah.
I just can't tell you.
Very hard
I've
to live
never
with pain.
experienced such pain. My
I believe you.
spine had collapsed in my lower back, L3, 4, 5, something like that, 5, 6, 7. And the femur, instead of doing the usual where that collapse would cause pain on the sciatica, which I would have known because I'd had sciatica pain many times, it was pressing on the chips of the spine were pressing on my femoral nerve. And I was convinced I had bone cancer, that I got it from taking that original bone density medicine that was out that ended up causing all kinds of problems. And that's why I fought him. Frank's mother died. He came right back. And I said, I've got to have the surgery. I've got to have the surgery. I can't go on like this. I will kill myself. It was, I used to laugh at people who said I have chronic pain until it happened to me. It was
Step into somebody's shoes.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
It was awful.
A lot of people are like that.
And for the first time, I became emaciated not from anorexia, but I couldn't eat because I was in so much pain.
Of course, but that makes sense.
So I said, I'll do the surgery. I was looking at him. He reminded me of George Harrison when he was like in his 20s. And George was my favorite Beatle, George and John. I never liked.
That's pretty good. I like that one.
Too, man, I love them. And I looked at him and I said, I know everything about you because I've Googled you. And I felt you haven't told me a thing. He was the chief of the residency of the UCI medical program. He got a fellowship of Christopher Reeve Fellowship. I don't know if you know about that, but it is all based on compassionately treating patients.
Fantastic.
Christopher Reeve, died from his spinal injury.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he and his wife left money to build this place in Florida to learn how to be compassionate. And I have never met a doctor since who was as compassionate as Dr. Roshan. I said, I know all of this about you. I just don't know how old you are. He very shyly went like this and he said, I'm 33. And 33, right? That's what I've been teaching. Oh my God, you're 33. And then I heard my mother say, because we grew up in Army hospitals, my dad was medical service. She would often say to me, if you ever have to have surgery, you want a young doctor with long, slender, steady hands. And I looked at him
Absolutely.
and I went, "You're young and you have the most slender hands." I said, "Let's do this." And 2 days later, I was in the hospital. And after a week, I came home. I had a titanium cage put in my back. I was
Fantastic.
that was when I was on morphine the whole time I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
I was mortified. I was terrified that I was going to get addicted. And when I first woke up the first night from the morphine, I started crying and screaming for help. And this old nurse, she's the only old nurse, she's the only white old nurse. The rest of my nurses were from Thailand and Vietnam. They were wonderful. But this old crusty gal named Pasty came to the door. She goes, "What the hell's going on in here?" And I said, "I'm in so much pain. I can't live. I'm in so much pain. Help me." And she came over. She goes, "God damn it, you're not using your morphine pump." And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." She said, "We can't give you the morphine, Shirley. You have to pump it. You can pump it for 24 hours straight. It will only give you what you need for every dose. But you are the one that has to pump that button."
Okay.
And I said, "But I don't want to lose my sobriety." And she goes, "Oh, fuck. You mean to tell me you're one of those?"
Oh my
I
God.
said, "I can't lose my sobriety." She goes, "You won't lose your sobriety because you are in pain. And it's okay to take pain medication, Shirley.
Right.
How else are you going to heal?" So
Exactly.
when I was released, I was sent home with Vicodin. And I have a wonderful sponsor who is also, she is a co-alcoholic. Her husband was a hopeless alcoholic, a very famous director here in Southern California, and he died an alcoholic. I called her, and her husband, her new husband, was a counselor at a juvenile detention center. And in the background, I'm going, "I can't take this Vicodin. I'm going to get addicted to it. I can't lose my sobriety, but I don't know how I'm going to live with this pain." And she goes, "Shirley," the same thing the nurse said, "you're in pain. Your body reacts differently. You're not addicted. You need this in order to heal." And
Exactly.
in the background, her husband goes, "God damn it, Shirley," pardon me for everyone. He goes, "But this is, I got to be truthful." He said, "Take the goddamn medicine. You're not going to get healed if you don't take the medicine. And if you get addicted to it, you can go back into rehab." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't go back into rehab." So I monitored that Vicodin. I had to be on it for a couple of years. So I had a 9 inches of my spine was cut open. This
Absolutely.
was not an easy recovery.
Pain can kill people.
Absolutely. But I took it, I monitored it. Dr. Roshan monitored it with me. Frank monitored it with me. And I made it through it. And I never did get addicted to Vicodin.
Well done.
I
Well
want to
done.
stop right here. I want to
That's
stop.
my story.
Okay, I want to stop right here because first of all, time is running out. It's a little
Yeah.
longer than we normally have, but I want to say how proud I am of you. And I took notes. It looked like I might have been playing, but I was taking notes, so I'm ready to write the story for one of the books. I don't have to mention your name. I was super proud of your being able to do this. I don't know if I would have been strong enough to come out. and say it.
I told you about my grandpa who told me,
Yes, I know
last,
that.
and that was the last time I saw him
Mhm.
because he died right after I sent him my announcement that I was graduating from college. But
Look what you accomplished.
he's the one that said, da, 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 da.
Really, you are just amazing, actually.
Unbelievable.
And do you know
my
something?
my grandpa, on the day that John Kennedy was assassinated,
Yeah.
my grandpa found his oldest son with his head blown up
Oh my God.
Oh, for
in
God's
Wow.
the
sake.
bedroom.
Let's do this on a good note.
I don't do this. Nobody's gonna find me with a gun to my head or my
Oh,
back.
And they
or my
didn't,
arm.
Shirley.
They'll find
They
you with the
didn't.
Donald Trump doll with a gun to Donald Trump's head.
Well, this
Let me
is-
say something
Here
to
we
Shirley.
go.
Let me
Wait,
say
go
something to
ahead.
Shirley. Shirley, I have known many people in similar straits.
Yeah.
Just let me put it
I
like
know,
that.
not
But I want to say something about you are obviously the most achieving,
I can't
high
believe it.
achieving person. And you know what? You said you were 74.
Yeah.
You look
Yeah, you don't look like.
on Saturday. I'll be
59.
She looks
You
great.
look 59.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
Aren't you happy she came?
Maybe that's
You
what
do,
happens
I swear.
when you
I
get
think
happy.
somehow your good living, your pure living has made you look 59.
Well,
Also,
I
she
also,
has an
I would like to share
amazing
one more thing
husband.
with you. I
wonderful
eventually
husband.
stopped going to Agape. I brought my mother out here in 2001, and because she was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. And I had been flying back and forth every third week to be with her for that week after chemotherapy, Lynn, when she was so sick.
I remember.
But I knew I couldn't just say, you're moving to California. She called me, you're gonna love this. I became a Buddhist during this time.
I know.
Oh, right.
I'm a devoted follower of His Holiness Dalai Lama, and lo and behold, 3 blocks from my house is a Tibetan Buddhist temple.
Excellent.
All
Excellent.
right, I gotta get my thoughts because I get hypered up.
Yeah.
I brought my mother out here. She was healthy enough for a while. I took her to Agape, and you know what she said? She did.
Yeah.
Walked out. I thought she would love the singing. She'd love the message. In front of all these hundreds of people, my mom goes, "Boy, that nigger sure can preach."
Oh,
And I'm like,
Oh, no.
"Oh my God, mother, you can't do this. What are you doing?"
you're lucky that you talked to her.
Southerners.
Well, this is poetic justice. In
Exactly.
2002, 4th of July of 2002, my mom collapsed in her bathroom. We were getting ready the day before the 4th of July. She was getting ready for an appointment with her oncologist, and I didn't hear anything. And my bathroom backed up to hers. So I ran into the bedroom. She was laying on the floor, and she looked up at me. By the way, she had met Helen, who did lots of help, gave my mother so much help when I would go on appointments, and Helen would come here and be with my mom. My mother loved Helen, a Black woman. She ended up having pneumonia. And on the 4th of July, she was put in a hospital, at the same hospital I was in. And she asked if she could have a couple of days before they released her. She said, "Could I have a pastor come and talk to me?" Because she was raised by Methodist. She was a daughter of a Methodist preacher. Her mama was they were never these evangelicals. That was, my mother told me those people were crazy. And she was right. But
That's my people, Shirley. Watch out.
she called me and said, this is really big for me. She called me and said, "I just had a minister come in. And when he walked in the door, he was a Baptist minister, little Black guy." And I went, "How did you do that?" She goes, "Oh, he was wonderful. He was so kind to me, Shirley." And I'm starting to see the layers of that racism peel away.
Yeah.
When she died, I knew Agape had become so big. And I remember in my head thinking, if I had known, the only way I could have had Reverend Michael come to be with me would be if I had known the exact date and time of my mother's death. And it hit me. I just can't keep going to that church. It's in LA. I need someone here who's close to me that I can know that it would be there for me, and I will be there for their place. On the day after my mother died, I called that little Black Baptist preacher and asked him if he would come and sit with me. And he came over here, and I didn't tell him my mother was a racist. I didn't realize she was a racist. Did I tell you about when I took the Black boy home for lunch in Heidelberg?
Yes.
Yeah.
She told me, she afterwards, she told me to never bring a nigger in her house again. Well, that Black man prayed with me. He remembered my mom. He prayed with me, and I made a nice donation to his church. And I was able to close it that way.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you the final story with my mom.
Yeah.
I was flying back every third week. These two women strangers had heard through their church that someone who knew my mom, and it wasn't at my mom's church, but we didn't know it's an evangelical church. Linda and Pam started coming to my mom's house every single day, bringing her lunch, taking her to chemotherapy, sitting with her at chemotherapy, buying her wigs, taking her. I mean, they were just unbelievable. So every time I went back, I would bring them gifts. And the last time I was back where I saw them, they were sitting across, we decided to have Thai food. Mommy and I were sitting on one side of the booth and they were sitting on the other. And they asked me what was maybe the most impressive person I'd ever met in my life, who had affected me the most. And it just like that, I said, meeting the Dalai Lama. He blessed me. He touched me on my face. He put a kata around my neck. And I remember turning to another friend next to me. We were greeting him for a visit here in Long Beach. And I said, we can never be bad again, you know. And their faces went from this to this. My mother, in September of 2001, called me hysterically. This was right about the time of the attack on New York City. And it was at night, so it was even later back in Oklahoma. And I'm going, Mama, what's wrong? What's wrong? And finally she chokes out, are we going to burn in hell? I said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I mean, I thought she was crazy. And she said, well, Pam and Linda just left. And they told me that if I moved to California, you were going to burn in hell. Well, I would burn in hell with you because of my love of the Dalai Lama. And I said, oh my
Shirley.
God. She was sobbing and sobbing. And then she said, are we going to burn in hell? And I go, if we're going to burn in hell, we're going to have a lot of company with us. We're going to have Muslims, Hindus, and non-religious people. Hell's going to be fun. And she kind of giggled and she said, I said, what did you do? How did you end it? And she said, I walked over to my front door. I opened my front door and I said, you two get out of here and don't ever darken my doorstep again.
Amen.
I said, Mommy,
amen. Praise the Lord.
I'm so proud of you, Mama. She was finding her wings too. You will not talk about this way. My daughter is not going to burn in hell, and I'm not going to burn in hell.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, it was pretty
At that
cool.
time, people believed in that stuff. So
My family still believes that, and I have
a lot of people do.
I have a Buddha on my mantelpiece, and when they come over to visit, they tell me they've tried to exorcise demons out of my head.
Oh my God! I
oh
know
my
people.
God.
No, my mom never did that.
Even as an adult, Shirley.
She saw how happy I was. And
Okay.
that I had a deep.
We should thank Shirley for this wonderful presentation, which Shirley, I'm so proud of you. I can't know, you know how
I'm just so impressed and so delighted with your life has been such an inspiration to me. I relate to it in so many ways.
And maybe one day, Leah, at a different time, you'll be able to tell your story, because our time is
well, no, I just want to say I
Lynn,
relate to so much of what she said.
Lynn, can I add something to?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Lady.
Sophie, go ahead.
Yeah, you are a brave lady, and all what you went through was meant to be.
I do believe that.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I do believe that.
Okay, beautiful.
And I came to a road where I could either choose to kill myself or get better.
Okay,
right, exactly. Okay.
Beautiful people do not just happen. They went through adversity, hardship, and many other trials, which make them passionate, knowing.
I absolutely believe that.
And I
believe it.
Hopefully, you
that's why Donald Trump has no compassion.
Yeah,
he has no sense of caring.
Yes.
He's
right.
never had to.
This is what you are.
I want to thank you so much, Shirley.
Just give me a
Shirley,
second.
Your
Topik, I think you said everything I had to say.
Your
I was it
openness,
for you.
your,
Okay?
yes, your experience,
are-
strength, and hope.
Yes.
Can I tell you, I do
That
want
was
to
it
tell
for
you,
Can you read? The
I
most beautiful people are those who have known defeat.
yeah, the
Suffering.
beautiful people are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, have found
Yes.
their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen.
Yes, this is who you are.
That's you.
This is
You're
you.
very
I
beautiful.
want you to know another thing. I had a huge breakthrough with my father. Thank you to Donald Trump, because when that son of a bitch said he liked the PO, the ones who didn't get captured, I swear to you, if he had been standing in front of me, I would be in jail today.
Well, thank
I-
God
Oh,
he
yeah.
wasn't. You're not. That's
I have
He's
all
gone.
of my dad's medals. I have 2 Purple Hearts, and he disparaged the Purple Heart. I was able to come to a forgiveness for my father. It took about 2 years into the Trump administration, but for the first time, I actually paid to have a flag flown down in Newport Beach on Veterans Day, not Veterans Day, Memorial Day. It's the first time I've ever done anything to honor my father, and I do honor him now because I understand that he was sick as me.
Yes.
He wouldn't have done to me if it hadn't been done to him.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
appreciate,
And that in
I
itself is the lesson that you learned, and unfortunately, it was done to you. But you're able to
It's
talk.
okay.
You can help other women through
Can
what
I
you
just-
know,
have.
maybe you can
Lynn,
share them, you know.
Lynn, can I just say that
You
her
have 2 minutes.
experience,
That's it.
her experience, strength, and hope have touched
Right.
me very deeply.
Oh, me too. And Najette said before Najette had to leave, she said she was so touched by your story.
Yeah.
That
I was a little embarrassed, and I thought, I don't want any of you to think I'm feeling sorry. I don't feel sorry for myself.
Not at, I know you've been.
Oh,
filled with
Rose
love for-
led.
I
She
feel,
just-
I'm filled with
All
love
roads
for you.
led to Frank, and Frank is the rock in my life that I never had until I was 42 years old. We got
Okay.
I
married when was
understand.
42.
Well, let's see, maybe one day we can get Frank on here to talk.
Oh, he'll
Yeah.
never go on.
Lucky he doesn't let me on the
Come
phone.
on, just come on.
We're the yin and the yang. I'm the blah, 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 and he's the. Ooh.
We're both the same. We
This is
beat
the
each other
guy who
out
does
for
Meals
words.
on Wheels every day, and then
Yeah.
goes and probably cleans boats.
He's
Your
absolutely.
your sense of humor probably also helped to save you.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's like, when I was sobbing and crying in that AA meeting down on Thursdays, and Singing Sam looked up at me and he said, "Shirley, you got Radio K-Fa playing in your head. You got to stop. You got to turn the channel."
Okay, Miss Shirley, thank you very much for this
Yeah.
wonderful meeting. Leah, I'll see you on, Leah, I want to meet with you sometime tomorrow because we have to.
I
talk.
thought you wanted to meet after this meeting, no?
No, you know what? Let's make it tomorrow.
Look at Trophy and that wonderful smile.
'Cause I have a New York cast meeting.
Oh my
You
God.
know what? Last word from me.
Oh, there's never.
What time, Lynn?
I never finish, but please, it's so important,
Never stop talking. What is this?
especially for Shirley. Let
Red,
me
fast.
say it. I went through the same you went through. I want to. Don't look at Tawfiq smiling. I went through homeless. I went through drugs. I went
You
through
did?
depressions, many things. But you know what?
Soulmates.
You have to tell your story sometime, Sophie.
I will. We talk about this too. Myron.
I'm going to make you laugh at the end of this.
Yes, you would hear
Yes,
my
Let's
story.
call it in because our time is over.
Yeah,
Go
we
ahead.
need to close. You will love this. I would always say, "I'm fine. I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine. Everything's fine." Whether I was 14 and being beaten or 36 and being beaten, I'm fine. Well, when I was in an AA meeting, that same one with a bunch of old sober men and women, I said, "I'm fine, really, I'm fine." And this other guy said, "Shirley, do you know what fine is? It stands for fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, Shirley, I will
Okay.
speak to you
I
very
love
soon.
you all so
Love
much.
you
So,
all.
Shirley,
Leah.
Shirley, you're not fine. You're not
no,
fine.
I am
Okay,
not
Leah,
fine. I am
Leah,
well. I
Leah,
am
10
well.
o'clock tomorrow morning.
And I want Tofi to tell his story the next
Sure,
time.
sure.
Yeah.
Not now, but eventually.
Yeah, eventually, if
Some
you
of the
want to.
Yeah.
I love all of
What
you.
time is good for you tomorrow?
I'm
Leah?
so
What time?
grateful. Lynn, you're the best thing that ever, can you hear me? You were
Yes,
the
darling.
best thing that came out of Daily Challenge for me.
And you were the best thing and you and Leah are the best thing that came out of Daily Challenge for me. I met family, and that's all that's
Yeah,
important.
I'm so happy that we have stayed connected. I met,
So
the first time I knew Lynn was special on Daily Challenge was
Oh,
when
really?
she didn't know you, and lots of love relation problems I'd read. I think, oh my God. But she put out a call for if anybody could send shoes for children. And I sent,
She was from Nigeria.
I sent you a box of shoes,
Yes, I remember.
children. And that
Yeah.
was when we really deeply
That's when we
connected.
connected. Well, everybody's used to me on Daily Challenge asking for something. I don't want to disappoint anybody. Now that I can actually do it, every day is a different song for me. Now I'm collecting toys, so don't even ask. I mean, it's just
Well, right
devastating.
now, I'm collecting toys for the St. Joseph Indian School
Wonderful.
in North Dakota. These kids, I've done this for years. These kids are just so freaking
And I'm
pure.
collecting
What
toys
we've
for
done
the
to
50
Native
years that are
American
homeless.
Indians is
Yeah.
horrific, absolutely horrific. And the poverty that they live in the Dakotas it's just unbearable. I got hooked up with this group a long time ago. I don't care if it's Catholic, I don't care what it is. They need
That
toys,
doesn't matter.
they need toys, they need pencils, they need paper, and that's what they get this year.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay, everyone, Leah, 10 o'clock
Okay.
tomorrow morning.
Your 10, my
Donald Trump, boom, boom, boom.
my 3 o'clock.
Let's go.
Hey, Tofik, I can't hear.
Lynn, my 3 o'clock.
That's my 10?
Your 10 is my 3.
Okay, good. Is that good?
Yeah. And
Okay,
your
good.
whatever it is my
We're
dinner.
not gonna Zoom.
Leah,
Okay,
where
let's
are
do
you
it on,
in,
let's do it on WhatsApp, okay?
is Leah in England?
Okay, good.
I'm in Wales.
Wales, I'm Welsh.
Oh, really? Well,
Here
I'm
we
from
go.
Florida.
There she goes.
I was born in Richmond, Virginia.
No, I'm not, I mean, that's my lineage way back. My mother's family came from Ireland and England, and my dad's family came from Wales. If you look at a phone book in Wales, every name in the book is Williams.
Oh, yeah. You gotta be kidding. I know that. I've lived here for 35 years. I know that.
So you know that. I would love
Sometimes
to
you can
visit
tell
Wales.
me, sometimes tell me the places, okay?
Well, sometimes what I really would love is to, when all this is over, I would love to go to Ireland and Wales.
Let's
I've
take
been all
along.
over
This
Europe.
pandemic isn't leaving.
Come visit. I'll take you to an AA meeting here.
I would just love that. I would love to go to Wales.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's do that. The two of you can hook up. It's just fine.
I love you, Tofi.
Okay,
I
all right.
Love
Thank
you.
you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Leah,
Thank you for
tomorrow at
letting me
10.
back.
Okay. Love
Okay.
you all. Bye.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
All right, love you.
And goodbye, Trump. Get your fat ass out of there.
Hollywood lady. My Hollywood lady.
Yes.
Come to New York. Preparing for you at least 4 Moroccan meals. Okay?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
I will be so honored. Namaste. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.